So, about me, you've seen me a couple of times in the past 2 days. You must have heard about me. I'm the founder and senior partner at Fermat Global. We're an intellectual property valuation firm. I know you've been doing a lot of intellectual property today. I conduct the other side of intellectual property. This is the financial aspects of intellectual property. But that's not what we're going to do in the session today, so don't worry. I completed my master's in entrepreneurship at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. I was one of the lucky ones who, during my engineering at Osmania University, I had a course in entrepreneurship. So I don't know how many of you have courses in entrepreneurship for your second year, third year students. Can you just raise your hands? One. You have two. And it was recently introduced, right? If I'm right, yeah. So even I had a course in entrepreneurship, and my takeaway from that course was I knew the meaning of entrepreneurship, but nothing else. Because the professor who was teaching us was a mechanical engineer. He was also new, and he did give us a lot of examples, but they were all very successful stories, and we could not connect with it because we as engineering students were like, okay, those guys were lucky, they had the funding. We are small people, we don't have an idea. How do we go there? How do we reach that? That was not addressed in our courses. So right after that, in my final year, I started a company called Moonge Enterprises. I worked on a business plan competition with Google, and I won that competition, and it dealt with helping women in North India become entrepreneurial by selling handicraft goods. So very simple as that, nothing related to engineering, but I failed terribly at that. And someone was asking me that we don't have any failed startups. We want to hear from failed startups. So yeah, I have a couple of them. So I am a big example of a failed startup, but I wear it as a badge of honor because everything for me was a learning experience. And the reason we failed was had a direct connection to our knowledge about entrepreneurship or running a business, because I was new, I didn't know what to do, my co-founders were new, they were engineering students, we were 20-year-olds, we didn't know how to run, how to talk to, how to make a business plan, how do we manage funds, how do we manage the production, how do we manage the timeline from the production to the delivery. So we had lots and lots of problems. Anyway, so we closed down within 6 months of starting it. And that's when I decided that I want to be an entrepreneur, but I accept that I don't have all the knowledge to be an entrepreneur. So I'm going to do my master's in this subject. So I chose to do my master's in entrepreneurship at the University of Michigan. But it was a very unique program because it was for engineering students like us, and it was a very technology-based program, so it was perfect. It fit perfectly fine with me. So before we get down to all, I know Sylvia yesterday addressed some common problems you are facing in your startup cells. And we discussed about funding, we discussed about lack of resources, but I find that the major problem is the soft barrier, that is the mindset. So when I decided to do my master's in entrepreneurship, I had a lot of people tell me that entrepreneurship cannot be taught, entrepreneurship cannot be learned. You should have the entrepreneur keyed up in you, and that's how entrepreneurs are there. But I said, no, I know that I don't have this knowledge, I want to learn about it. So that is a common misconception that creativity is a trait, it's not a skill that can be learned. So right when I was starting my master's in entrepreneurship program, a group of my friends started a company called Spizo.com. And these, I can tell you, these were the group of students who had laughed at me for doing the Masters in Entrepreneurship program. They said, we're not going to do any masters, we are going to go directly into the market, we are going to start up. And they started their company, which was at that time it was the upcoming thing, which was grocery delivery market, if you remember, during the big basket time. And but they said, no, we already have players like Big Basket, so we'll try and do something different. So what they did was very interesting, because they tied up with local kirana stores, and they said, if we get an order, we are going to send the order to that locality kirana stores, and we will be delivering from their kirana stores. So this way, we're helping the kirana stores. And which was a good idea. As you can see, they got a lot of press attention. They spent about 3 crores as seed money to start up. It was a very big launch, and they targeted housewives. Now, can anyone tell me what was the problem? Can you find any problem with their startup? Great idea. Yeah, please. Smartphones, yeah, probably they didn't have technology. Any other problems? They cannot bargain. Very good point. I didn't think about that. That is a very good, yeah. Perfect. See, I can have a lady second that thought, because that is exactly right. Because housewives liked going to the market. They wanted to go and purchase, they wanted to bargain, and they wanted to select their fruits and vegetables and the other kirana items and buy it. And that gave them satisfaction, because that was their work, that was their household work. And that's exactly why after 1 year of operations, they were not surviving, and financially they could not, other than the people who they could reach from family and friends, no one else was buying from their website. And the other reason, of course, is, what's the other reason? There is another reason. Yeah, time of launch, but again, this was during the time of Big Basket. Of course, their model is different from Big Basket, but what is the problem? Yeah, so maybe quality of products, but anything else? Price competitive. See, when they started, they placed their uniqueness in the fact that they are reaching out with kirana stores, they are partnering with kirana stores. That was their uniqueness compared to Big Basket. But as a customer, as the end user, it didn't matter to me whether I was getting the same good from the kirana store or from some inventory of Big Basket, right? So they didn't think about that. They thought this was an innovative business model and it's not been done before, but they didn't understand what the customer needs are. Restrictively, yes. Now, yeah, this was way back, so when it was just launching and grocery delivery stores were not that, yes, those were the problems which they faced, and eventually, after 1 year of operations, they realized that yes, we had all these glitches, we had to concentrate on the customer's needs, we had to understand our business model better, and while they were doing that, I was doing my master's in entrepreneurship, learning about the same things, but I did not spend 3 crores on starting a company. That was the only difference. We kept talking about in the past 2 days about problem identification, about how you can, we spoke about opportunity identification and problem identification. Can you differentiate between the two? Can someone tell me the difference between opportunity and problem identification? You had 3 days, there were a lot of speakers, I'm sure someone addressed this. Yes, you find a problem and then you see the problem, you see how big the problem is, you feel the problem as probably a customer, and then you try to solve it. And when there's an opportunity, you see a gap which is there and you say, okay, there is a gap there, I can probably start my company there. But most of the startups you know about, can you think, and startup stories you've heard, they always start with the problem identification. Isn't it right? So that is called market pull, where the market needs, you see a problem, it's a need of the market, and there is a pull. But we as engineers, what we think or what we work towards is something called technology push, which is not a bad thing, where we have an invention, and then we go to the market and we try to push that invention on the market. Which of those two methods is better? Market pull or technology push? Market pull is easier, but in market pull, yeah, but how is it different from technology push? Because when you have an invention, I'm sure most of you have worked on technologies in your final year, in your thesis, in your PhD research, and you have your research, you have your technology. So when you try and commercialize it, what's the problem you might face? First is the customer. You don't know whether there is a product market fit. You have an invention, but you haven't yet validated that invention with the market. Right? Yeah, they should feel the need. In fact, I'll just tell you a story about my experience with technology push. I started working with a researcher named Victor Lee at the University of Michigan, and we had a technology which was self-healing concrete. Who knows about concrete and who's into civil engineering? Yeah, everyone knows about concrete, of course. But what was unique about this technology was that this particular technology would heal, the concrete would heal when water falls on it. The cracks would heal when it rains or when you throw water on it, which was unique. I'm sure there is a lot of research now that's happening, but this was way back in time, and he's got a couple of patents on that. But the only issue is that the cost of this concrete is about 150% to 200% more than the original cost. So when we tried to commercialize it, we could not. We did not find a market. We did not find the government willing to, try it out on the roads or on bridges. So it's still just a research, and there has not been much of commercial activity that's happening. But Mr. Victor Lee spent 10 years of his life on this research. And he has that entrepreneurial mindset as well, because he wants to commercialize that technology. But now he's facing that wall where he doesn't know how to reach the market. Do you have any suggestions for Victor Lee? Yes, but how do they reach the customers? Who are the customers? Priority sectors? Issue, and who's that? Nuclear power sectors, okay. And any other? Cost, very good point, and she pointed out something very important, which is they should probably try and meet the market. Now they realize that the market needs lower cost materials, so now they should focus their research on building low cost materials, right? So they should just divert the research focus. Now, in terms of market pull, I have two examples, and you all know both these examples, I'm sure. Zomato. Who knows Zomato's story? No? No one knows? So Zomato was formed by two people who were working at IBM, and every day they would go to the canteen and they would have to wait in line to see the menu, and then they had to go and order that particular food which they wanted. So they saw that this created a lot of chaos, because there was always this time lead where everyone were trying to reach on time to the canteen so that they could stand in the front of the line. And they said, okay, why not we create a website where we just post our daily menu. Not even a website, they wanted to do that in their IBM website itself. They posted their daily canteen menu there. That's how it started. And then they thought, oh, it worked here. Why can't we do this for all the menus in restaurants? And that's how we have Zomato, and we all know, I'm pretty sure all of us have Zomato on our cell phones today, and they've reached more than 16 countries, and they've raised more than $500 million, and they're one of the leading startups in India now. So that was one example of a market pull, where they saw a problem, and then they started small, and then they saw the scalability of the problem, and they started their own company. The next thing we also know about Arunachal Murugan, I always get his name wrong, but we saw the movie Padman. Who saw the movie Padman? And this is an example different from Zomato, because Zomato, we were talking about IBM, we were talking about engineers who had the technology background. But Arunachalam was, he was living in a village, he had multiple jobs, he was a tool maker, and he saw a problem where he saw his wife use old rags and newspapers when she had menstruation. And he decided that he's going to solve this problem. And today we know Arunachal Murugattam is doing so much more in terms of low-cost sanitary napkins. So these are examples of market pull technology. So we've been talking so much about invention and innovation in the past 2 days. Especially today we spoke a lot about invention, and probably yesterday we spoke a lot about innovation. So can someone tell me the difference between the two? Very good. Invention plus, come on, but what is invention? Invention is a solution for a problem, it's something new. And what is innovation is when you try and commercialize it and you find a value that that invention creates for the society. That's the difference between invention and innovation. Everyone knows Thomas Edison, but not many know that he did not actually invent the light bulb. What he did was he found that this could be commercialized, that we could sell the light bulb. So that's the basic invention. Okay, so now I don't want to put in a lot of things, but I want to have a more activity-based approach. So we'll divide you all into some groups, and we will try and do something as we call as an ideation session, but we would focus more on problem identification, not the solution. I want you all to focus on the problem. So can we divide you all into groups? Manav, can you help me divide them into groups? And because we are running short on time, can we do this?
Probably can we look at a student-teacher mix so that we both have experience and expertise, or
yeah. So students come in the front.
Yeah, students come in the front.
And try and
and the teachers probably.
And teachers probably leave one space, one bench.
Yes, that would work a lot. Try being like a group of 4, so probably 2 teachers and 2 students. That would be possible. No, just sit down. So basically like 2 teachers and 2 students, so like a group of 4, so that the activity happens also in a faster manner.
Sylvia, a lot of, I just went around and asked everyone about some feedback about sessions, and someone had a question about how do we motivate students to attend such sessions. So while we divide on that, maybe you can address that question.
Okay, that's an excellent question. It makes me laugh because it's the first thing I think about whenever we have an event or a workshop. How do I get the students to come? Because students are very busy, they have classes, they have other activities, and it's hard for them to perceive the importance of something, especially if they're doing it for the first time, before actually being there. So for me, the secret to doing that is to embed the activities in coursework and to work with professors, with my colleagues, to have them ask their students to come to these events as part of earning credit for the course, to encourage them to come, and so on. And so most of the things that we do are embedded in coursework. So students get maybe more class participation, maybe they get a chance to cancel an absence through participation to one of these events, or to enhance their overall grade, especially students who may have missed a few classes or who may not be doing particularly well. They can use these events and these activities to improve the overall grade. And with the collaboration of professors in other disciplines, we've been able to do this quite successfully. So I don't remember any event that was drastically under-attended. And that's very important also for the speakers that come, because nobody likes to speak to an empty hall. So it's important also, as a matter of respect to our speakers, to have a class that has a few people in it who are interested. That comes also usually with some activity after the event, so that students are not only sitting in the chairs and looking at the event, but then have an opportunity to reflect on what they've heard and maybe write a brief impression paper. That could be just a couple of paragraphs, but just to show they've interacted with the material. So these are some of the tactics that we use to ensure that these events are attended and students get the benefit from coming, and it's not just warming up a chair. That's not what we want.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Sylvia. And so now we all are in groups. I believe there are about 6 to 8 groups. So while I was talking to you all during the tea break, I also got a feedback that said, what kind of sessions do we organize? We are not even there we don't even have the idea yet. So this is something which you can do in class. So for you to actually do this in class, I think you should also experience that session. So this is exactly what it is. So I want you all to discuss with each other and identify problems. And how do you identify problems? Think about your own lifestyle. Think about how you can improve your lifestyle. Think about, you probably already have identified a lot of problems. Think about the times you thought, I wish there was a technology for this. And just have a small discussion among y'all. Here's one thing. When we usually have these events and we identify a problem, for example, when I'm trying to say a problem, I mean the problem is, how do I move this boat forward? And the immediate solution comes on to be, how do we change the oars, or how do we redesign the oars? But no, I don't want you to think about the existing solution. You just blank yourself out of what already exists and think about how I might solve such problems. So when you're thinking about problems, I don't want you all to, have a solution in mind while you're thinking about problems. Okay? And here's a great, so you can start the discussion. Do you want any points? I'll be walking around, and Manav will be walking around, and Sylvia will be just interacting with you all about the session. So you can take an object, any object. Like I took a student alarm system, and I said, that's not the problem. The problem is that I have to get out of the bed at a certain time, and I have to stay awake. So that's the problem. So don't have this in mind, the solution already exists, that is the alarm system. What can also be done, which can make this possible? That can also be a way of thinking this. You just have to change the way you think. So identify problems this way also. They came up with different designs, they came up with different ways of doing it. But is that the problem? The problem is not the design of the mousetrap. What is the problem? The mouse, the rats, the rodents. So this is a real case study of how when we focus on the solution, we lose sight of what the actual problem is. So while you're discussing, don't think about the solution. Think about the problem, define the problem. I think we're running short on time, and here's a question. Do you want to continue for the next 15 minutes and go for lunch 15 minutes late? Is that okay? Yeah? No? Yes, raise your hands. No? Oh, we're and I can clearly see students raising their hands and professors saying no. Okay. Touch upon another topic, which was defining the problem but understanding how big the problem is. In terms of US dollars, or in terms of Indian rupees, how big the problem is. So I wanted to teach you all how to do that calculation. But we're running short of time and you want to go for lunch, so you can't do that. I'm just saying you're missing out on that. So now that we've discussed so many problems, I want each group to just decide on the biggest problem which you think, without the calculation. Ideally, I wanted you to do the calculation for each of the problems, but without the calculation, I know you understand that one of the problems would be bigger than the others. So identify that problem and tell me what the problem is. You'll have 2 minutes is fine to do this. Now we're going to pass the mic around, and you have to just tell me what, according to your group, is the biggest problem among the problems that you've identified. We're just running short of time, so I can't list all the problems, all the groups, but we will definitely connect offline. But what I was trying to what I was trying to tell you from this exercise is that although we are engineers, what we just did was a very normal thing, where opportunity identification or problem identification. So I heard a lot of, how do we become, we are engineering backgrounds, we don't know what startup is. How do we get there? We have identified the problem, we are engineers, we come up with a technological solution. Who best can come up with a solution than us, right? So I think we should stop asking ourselves, like why is India like this? Why are we not doing certain things? Why is our education system this way? Why is our healthcare system this way? And instead, flip it around and ask why not? Why not I do something towards it? Why not me? Why not I become an entrepreneur? Why not I start up something in this space? So I'd like to ask a question to you after these 2 or 3 days. Do you think, how many of y'all can become an entrepreneur now? A very good number from what we had on the first day, isn't it? So that's a very good, that is a progress for us, and it is also why we started this Educate to Innovate programs, because we wanted to increase that number. When you can increase the number here within this group, you can do that within your colleges as well. Right, ma'am? Yeah. So now we'll have, I'm leaving my email, and I know a lot of you all asked me that how do we, what kind of events do we organize in the startup cells? What do we do? So I have some resources which you can use. So if you can email me asking me about the resources, I will be very happy to share it with you all. Now, one important thing which we haven't covered is the business model canvas, and it's just a very small presentation. It will take about 10 minutes and we will be done. So Manav here would take that presentation. Thank you so much.